We're gonna cut the cable. Try not to cut yourself. It's preferable if you use a box cutter. It's also important to try not to damage the cables that you're gonna use. Usually what you can do is that you peel the cover of the UTP cable and you can cut your cable maybe like a 10 centimeter length, and then you can just get the cables out like this. So usually the UTP has 4 pairs of cable. You just take one pair and you have to untwist it in order to use the cable. So here we have some cable that we're gonna use for this one specifically. Here we have the cables, we have the capacitor, we have the diodes, and we have the header. And before starting to solder, we need to remove any residues that we have on the tip of the soldering iron. We can use a knife to do that, or a box cutter, or you can use some sanding paper. It's preferable to use sanding paper. You have to do this before the soldering iron is connected, because if you do this while the soldering iron is connected and it's hot, you will get a lot of oxide in here, so that doesn't help. You will need to resharpen your knife after this. So you just need to be careful with the soldering iron. Remember that it's going to be hot. Just follow your common sense and don't burn yourself. Now we're gonna make the circuit. So the circuit is, in this case, you will need 2 terminals here, and those terminals are connected to the diodes. Remember that in this case we have something like this. So you will need two diodes like this. This is gonna be your terminals, and here we need to connect other terminals, right? And maybe in parallel we're gonna use a capacitor in this case, like this. So this is the input, and this is the output of the circuit. So you need to think about how you're gonna do this. You have to plan how you're gonna do it. So the first thing that we need to do is to solder the terminals. So for that we're gonna use this header. We're gonna use this header, and we're gonna use maybe a couple of pins here. We can use maybe these two. So we just cut those two, and then we insert them into the prototype board. It's preferable to use other types of boards, because in these ones you will need to make a bridge between the different the different points here. In other prototype boards, the different holes are already bridged. They already have a connection. So in this case, we need to make the connections ourselves. So first we're gonna solder these two. These are the terminals of the header. So we're gonna use some soldering wire. This should be already hot. So we need to put some soldering wire on the soldering iron. And then we remove the excess. This is in order to make it easier for the heat to transmit from the soldering iron to the board. So in this case, what you need to do is you need to touch the terminals on the component, and you need to touch the PCB. So the heat is transferred to both sides. You just heat it for a couple of seconds, maybe 3 seconds, 1, 2, 3, and then you use the soldering iron here, the soldering wire here, and you touch the terminal, and that's it. And then you remove quickly. Now, you need to check if it's a good solder. Usually, a good solder is triangular in shape, and it has to cover all the conduction material. In this case, this was not that good, because maybe we needed a little more soldering wire. And then you remove in an upward manner, so it gets in a triangular shape. This is a little better because we are making contact. It's not perfect, but it's honest work. It's something. Now, again, remember that you have to touch both materials with the soldering iron. You heat for maybe 3 seconds, and then you touch the terminals with the soldering wire. You heat it for a moment, and then you remove. In this case, this was not perfect because we have a short here. So what we need to do is we're gonna heat the material again, and we're gonna try to get rid of that excess. Right? Maybe we have some excess soldering wire in the soldering iron, so you just remove it like this. So again, there you go. There. So now it's already there. Now we need to bridge that to the diodes in our diagram. We need to. These are going to be our terminals here, these two, and we're going to solder that to the diodes. Okay. So for that, we need to take the diodes. Usually, in a PCB, the components are horizontal, especially this type of components. So what we need to do is to form an horizontal shape using the pliers, like this. And then we have to look at the circuit and see how it goes. So this terminal goes to one of the diodes, and it goes to the anode of the diode. Remember that in the case of the diodes, the anode is the one that doesn't have a line, so we're gonna try to put it near the terminal that doesn't have a line in the package. So I'm gonna put it here, like this. Okay, so now both of the terminals of my diode are there, just like that. And we can continue doing the circuit. So in this case, let's use another diode. Again, you have to bend the terminals so it becomes horizontal. Okay, so we connected this diode here, or well, we're planning that this diode that we already placed is this one. Now we're gonna use this one. Okay, so this one is connected to the anode of the diode 2, so we're gonna put it near this terminal here. The cathode of this diode is gonna be near this terminal here. So let's do that. Something like this maybe. Try to make it so your components are as close as possible to the PCB. Okay, so there. We can bend the terminals now, so they stay in place. So we can bend them like this, and now they are in place. Now we need this one. We already have this one and this one. Let's mark them. We have this one. We have this one. Now we need this one. This one is connected to the cathode of the first diode, and the cathode is connected to that cathode. So again, we take the diode, we bend the terminals. Remember that this is a prototype, so it doesn't have to be very pretty, but it's better if it's well organized. So in this case, this one is this one, so it goes close to this diode anode. So we're gonna place it close here, maybe. Let's try to make it symmetrical, so we're gonna place it here, just like that. So we have anode and anode. Yeah, sorry, cathode and cathode. Very well. Okay. And we already have this one. Now we need this one. So this one is connected to the anode of the diode that we just placed. The one that we just placed is this one. And the other terminal is connected to the cathode of this one, so we can place it here, right? Again, so this one is the cathode is connected to the anode of this one. So we place it like this. They have to be near each other. It's better if you keep your circuit symmetrical, because it gives you certain order and you can understand your circuit better. So remember, it doesn't have to be pretty, but it's better if it's organized. Okay, so now we have the connections. Remember that the ones that we're going to connect are close to each other. So let's solder those so they stay in place, and then we're going to solder the wires, right? Again, we remove the excess. and we have to hit both the terminals and the PCB for maybe 2 or 3 seconds, and then we remove the soldering iron. Again, we need to touch both for maybe 2 or 3 seconds, and then we add the soldering wire. Then we remove the soldering iron in an upward manner, so it gets in a triangular shape. Again, we hit for 2 or 3 seconds. Remember that you don't have to hit too much time, because if you do it for a long time, what can happen is that the PCB conductor is gonna get lifted from the material, from the bakelite, or you can burn your board, so you don't want that.
Estaba ahí oliendo todo.
I mean, so it's not very pretty, it's not perfect, but it works. Okay, so we said that this terminal is this one, so we need to solder those. So this one goes here, let's mark that. This one goes here, and this one goes here. We need to make a cable here, and this one goes here. And this one goes here, right? And this one goes. This one here. This here. It's better if you don't write on your on your board, because if you write on your board, maybe the soldering wire will not stick very better. But okay, so this one goes here, right? Okay, so this one goes here, and this one here should go all the way here. So this one must go here. Right.